My hair's getting long. Gotta think about a haircut soon. Hi everybody, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. I wanted to do a book review on Adam Bede. This was our, it's May. This is our April selection for our George Eliot 2021 read-along. And I didn't want to include it in a My Bookish Week or a wrap-up video because I thought it deserved its own commentary. I'm going to try very hard. It was tempting to do a spoiler review, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it spoiler-free. If you are interested in a further discussion with spoilers because you've read Adam Bede and you just want to talk about it, let me know that in the comments below and we can talk about it, or you can send me a Voxer message and we'll do that. But I don't want to do any spoilers. What's interesting with classics is a lot of times people think, well, the story's been out there for centuries and you don't have to worry about spoilers. I've had so many classics ruined that way because people have either talked about the endings of classics, of books I've never read and want to, and it's like, it doesn't matter that it's a classic. Not everybody has been aware of what that storyline is, and come on. The other thing that ruins classics for spoilers is reading the introduction before reading the book. So many times I've spoiled myself by reading the introduction of a classic first. Number one major piece of advice for reading classics: save the introduction for after the book, because what it actually does is it gives you more insight into the author and the plot points in the story, the characterizations, the motivations of the author, what their life was like and how they came to write that book. And it often offers a lot of themes and symbolisms and things like that. But don't read the introduction before reading the book, please, I'm telling you. So, I am going to be talking about Adam Bede by George Eliot, and instead of holding this book up the whole time, I'm going to put a picture here, and I'm going to leave it up, hopefully for the duration of the video. What is Adam Bede? Adam Bede is George Eliot's first official novel. Her first novel book was Scenes of Clerical Life, which is actually 3 novellas in one book. And this one was the first, I'm holding it up again. Why do I do that? This one was the first full-length novel that she published. It was published in 1859 under the name George Eliot, not Mary Ann Evans, and was published I can't even pronounce that word. I just said it. It was published under George Eliot's name, not Mary Ann Evans. I'm gonna pronounce this word. Pseudonymously. Pseudonymously. I think I got it, which means it was published under a pseudonym. I could have just said that. Even though Mary Ann Evans was a pretty well-established writer, she had been writing for publications and serials and magazine quarterlies, that type of thing, and she was an editor and a scholar already, so maybe she could have published under her own name. We'll never know. Adam Bede, and I think most of her novels, have remained in print and are often studied in English literature classes for good reason. She described this novel as a country story full of the breath of cows and scent of hay. That's exactly what Adam Bede is. It's a story and a novel of pastoral English life in the very late 1700s, early 1800s. Even though it was published in 1859, she was writing about a little bit of an earlier time. So what is the general plot, theme, characters of the story without spoilers? It is the story of Adam Bede, but I've said this before, he doesn't always play the primary protagonist role, even though the book is named after him. It is a character list of people that appear throughout the novel. It is a small English village which is made up of tenants on the estate of the Donnithornes. And these are all a combination of large and small tenants, and what that basically means, if you're not aware, is in Victorian English aristocratic life, you had a wealthy mansion-owning landowner who was a squire, or the landowner of an estate, and it was vast enough that he rented out tenancies to farmers and to people who worked on the land, who maintained it. And Adam Bede, his brother Seth, and their mother Lisbeth, and his father in the very beginning of the book were tenants, or are tenants on the land. So Adam is one of many characters. Arthur Donnithorne is the young 20-year-old grandson of the senior Donnithorne, who is the actual landowner, and Arthur is in line to inherit. There is also Hetty Sorrel, who is the niece of the Poisner, Martin Poisner, and who is one of the largest tenants on the land. She is a very beautiful, vain, superficial teenage girl, about 17, who catches the eye of Adam Bede. He believes he's in love with her. There is a woman, Dinah, who is a Methodist Wesleyan preacher. She travels the countryside preaching to small villages and the poor, and she believes that is her role in life. Her calling in life is to ministry. So those are pretty much the four main characters in the novel. And again, we see a lot of varied pastoral farmers and village people, and there's a minister, and there's a very small portion of the novel that is church life, and there's a village teacher, and there's a lot of other farm workers and a lot of other people that come up in the novel. Let's see. I want to make sure, I've got notes, but I want to make sure I'm not saying anything that's going to ruin the story. It says it's a novel of a love rectangle, which is not really the case. There are a couple of different love story lines with a common character, but it is a novel with love in it. But it could be considered a main theme. But what George Eliot does is she writes about the everyday pastoral, farming, poor, somewhat illiterate, often illiterate villages of people who live around and on the estates of the wealthy. And quite often, a lot of Victorian novels are talking about the aristocracy and the wealthy people and their social circles and the drama. This is a perfect display of country life and the daily, everyday goings-on of a farming family, many of whom have multiple family members living with them because it was very easy for death to happen in those days. So sometimes they're living with nieces and nephews and uncles and grandchildren. And George Eliot is a master at description of the landscape and farming, a woman's work in the home in the 17 and 1800s, the point of marriage, that it's not always for love. There's a lot of marital arrangements that happen because families need to be created, and children were often for farm work. So George Eliot displays the English countryside so well, and all of the details and the nuances of those people's everyday life. So Adam Bede is a carpenter, along with his brother Seth, who is an apprentice carpenter. And Adam is an upstanding, strong, assertive, very high character, virtuous man who most of the village really respects, looks up to, and likes because he's simply a good person. He's soft-spoken, but definite in his opinions. He is helpful, and he's charming when he wants to be, when he smiles, when he is having a good time, but he's often a very serious character. His brother Seth is a young, easygoing, loving, happy guy who is becoming a Methodist and so is very church-minded. Hetty Sorrel, like I said, is a 17-year-old, vain, superficial teenager, wants to get off the farm, starts to fall in love with Arthur Donnithorne, mostly because he's cute, he's charming, he's nice, he pays her attention, and he's rich, and she wants a different kind of life. Adam becomes entranced with the idea of being in love with Hetty, and it's kind of a thing where there's not a lot of young, gorgeous women in this little farming village, and he's fallen for her. It's interesting because their temperaments don't really match, but he's not aware of that. He has very innocent, pure intentions of marriage and family and taking care of her, but that's not at all the kind of life that she wants. And Seth is in love with Dinah, who is the young female Methodist preacher, but she lives in a very remote, rocky outcrop of land, but she wants to travel to where the poor people are. She wants to work for the glory of Jesus, and she wants to bring people to faith. That is her only path in life, according to her. She's kind of got blinders on, so she doesn't want marriage. She doesn't want a family or children. This is what she believes she's meant to do. She's very good. She's very earnest. She's very definite, and she's good at what she does. And so there's a lot of dynamic as to what's my purpose in life? What is love supposed to mean? Should I have a certain kind of love in my life? A lot of those subjects come up. What basically happens is, and it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of on the back of the book, Arthur Donathorn swoops in and wins Hetty's affections. Hetty is the young woman that Adam is in love with. And they form a secret relationship. That's all I could say without telling you any spoilers, but the biggest conflict is the fact that Arthur is a wealthy landowner who will inherit this estate, and Hetty is just a farmer's niece. She has no position, no standing, no money, and there is no way the two of them would ever be able to have a permanent life together. She doesn't know that. Arthur knows that and is kind of playing with her affections, even though he remains nice and charming. He's the kind of man who thinks everybody likes him and wants everybody to like him and hates it when somebody's mad at him. So he's kind of stringing her along too long. Adam eventually finds out about the secret relationship, and Adam and Arthur were childhood friends, best friends, and there becomes a massive conflict over passions. This is where I'm basically going to stop talking about the novel, because the plot line has so many tensions that anything more that I would say about the plot would totally screw it up. The cast of characters is vast, somewhat hilarious. The Poyser family is Martin Poyser and his wife Rachel. Rachel Poyser is a badass farming wife. She is hilarious. And George Eliot, you may not think, but she writes so much humor in the narrative, and the characters that she creates, I laugh out loud. Rachel Poyser does not take any crap from anybody. She is revered as this wonderful, self-managing, strong farmer's wife, a good woman, a good, stable woman. There's the Irwine family. Adolphus Irwine is the rector of Broxton. He's the village pastor. He's a bachelor. He lives with his elderly mother and two sisters who he takes care of all of them. He lives a very spare, simple life. He loves his congregation. He loves his group of villagers, and he's just basically a good man. The Donathorn family, Squire Donathorn, is the elderly rich man whose grandson Arthur is our estate inheritor. And there's just a very large cast of characters and so many funny and heartwarming and close dynamics and interactions. It's just one of the best examples of pastoral life. And the fact that George Eliot wrote it, it's artistic, masterful, funny, illuminating, tragic, and just beautiful. What I wanted to share now is some parts of the introduction that won't spoil the story, but Dickens offered high praise of George Eliot. He said, and I quote, "Adam Bede has taken its place among the actual experiences and endurances of my life. Every high quality that was in the former book, Scenes of Clerical Life, is in that, with a world of power added thereunto." Dickens and Eliot wrote at the same time in same time period, and he was a fan of hers. George Eliot wrote under the name George Eliot because she didn't want to get caught up in being thought of as a woman's writer. She didn't want to be considered a silly woman, in her words, in her quote. And she picked the name, probably George, because that was her partner, her lover's first name. But she grew up in the pastoral English countryside, and that's why she's so good in the narrative in Adam Bede and other novels of describing it and showing her love for it in her fiction. And she has a certain amount of disdain for wealthy landowners, for the aristocracy, for the social conventions of the time. She was a very unconventional woman. But one of the things I loved about Adam Bede is, without giving the ending, it's easy to consider the end of Adam Bede a happy ending. It's not really. It's a little more complicated than that. And a major theme of where the plot goes and how the plot points develop, how the characters develop. A major theme and a major reason in the narrative of this book is you can go through tragedy in your life and you go through pain and sorrow and you will be changed by it, but that doesn't mean life doesn't go on. The characters in the book go on with their lives, but they are broken and put back together. They have scars, and that changes their perspective. It changes their outlooks. And that's a major theme in the novel when you get to the end and you realize everything sorrowful and tragic that has happened, everything that's happened to characters in the book, and the characters that are left at the end, even though it seems to be they're moving on with kind of this happy, contemplative pastoral life, there's a lot of sorrow and stretching and tragedy to overcome. And these characters just pick up and move on with their life because that's what they do. They carry a certain strength and they carry a certain positive outlook to the future. They know that there's more to come. And they will not only remember their experiences that they've survived or that they've overcome, they know that they're going to create new ones. They'll remember the past fondly and with sadness. They'll remember the people that they lost, but they pick up and they get on with it. And so that is a very big theme throughout the book. Themes of love and rejection and betrayal and the love of Christ. That's a major theme with Dinah Morris, who is this young female preacher. She befriends everybody. She wants to show the love of God. And in my opinion, she does it without proselytizing. She preaches so well, and she acts what she preaches. She ministers to people. She shows them physical love and emotional love and caring. And she wants to talk to them about faith in God, but she doesn't push herself. She wants to be there as a resource. And it's a gorgeous example of Eliot's own conflict with her religion. It was so important to her, and she does this in scenes of clerical life as well. She displays what faith and religion should be, the love of God in helping and ministering to your fellow human person. And it was just a gorgeous point throughout the novel. It is very heavy in religious themes, but it's beautiful. And you don't have to understand any intricacies or details of any religious faith. If you are aware that people do worship God and people love Jesus, you'll understand the narrative. I think that's it for me. I think that's all I needed to say. Adam Bede is a gorgeous, powerful novel. I do highly recommend it, even if you're just starting off with George Eliot. It's a great story. It's really super fascinating. It's funny. It's sorrowful. The writing is absolutely beautiful. Again, it's George Eliot. So let me know if you've read it and want to talk about it. Let me know if you want to, contact me in Voxer and we can talk about it back and forth. I did that with a few other people as well, and we had a blast. So write a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I've interested you in George Eliot or in Adam Bede, and I'll be happy to see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.